Hi guys, the Cannes Film Festival has now finished and the prizes have been given out. For me, this is the start of the race for the Best International Feature Film Academy Award. There are some titles that have cemented their place as the frontrunners for their country's submission for the Oscar. If you are new to my channel, my name is Paul, and I cover the best of world cinema and follow the race for Best International Feature Film Oscar, from countries selecting their submission to the final winner. In this video, I'm going to first look at the connection between the Cannes Film Festival and the Best International Feature Film Oscar category. I will then give you my top 10 Oscar picks that should be firm favourites to be their country's submission for the award. And finally, I'll give some analysis of where countries it is less clear what they're going to pick based upon what's been shown at Cannes, and explore where the competition could be in those countries and whether their country's submission has been shown at Cannes. So please follow this journey into the results of the Cannes Film Festival and how it may result in a Best International Feature Film Oscar. Cannes Film Festival has historically been really helpful in outlining the potential competitors for the Best International Feature Film. If we take last year alone, for example, 6 of the 15 shortlisted films received prizes at Cannes, showing it's the quality of films that do well at the Best International Feature Film Oscar. Some of the films that did well at Cannes, which then ended up being their country's submission for the Oscars, include the eventual winner, The Zone of Interest for the United Kingdom, Wim Wenders' Perfect Days, which was Japan's submission, but also got an Oscar nomination. 4 of the films that made the shortlisting stage also received prizes at Cannes, including Finland's Fallen Leaves, France, The Taste of Things, Morocco's The Mother of All Lies, and Tunisia's Four Daughters. Cannes awards were also given to films that did not make it to the shortlisting phase but were submitted for the Oscar, including Turkey's About Dry Grass, Somalia's Goodbye Julia, Belgium's Oman, Chile's The Settlers, and Malaysia's Tiger Stripes. And obviously, last year's Palme d'Or winning film, Anatomy of a Fall, was not selected by France, partly due to political reasons, and partly for their favouring a more traditionally French film, The Taste of Things, resulting in them being excluded from that category, but they actually ended up winning the Best Original Screenplay Oscar. There's a similar thing going on here with a couple of films that picked up prizes which are unlikely to be selected by their country's selection committee, but theoretically could be their country's submission. In particular, I'm thinking of the film The Seed of the Sacred Fig, which of course the director, Mohammad Rasuluf, is technically meant to be in Iranian prisons for 8 years due to his filmmaking, and has managed to escape Iran in a very brave and heroic gesture, encouraging freedom of expression in Iran. And obviously, this is the sort of film that any other country may want to pick up and put forward as their country's submission. However, the fact he's escaped Iran and avoiding a prison sentence means that Iran will not select it as their official submission. Cannes is usually a good indicator of which film is going to win Best International Feature Film Oscar. With the exception of Netflix originals such as Roma, which won from Mexico, and All Quiet on the Western Front, which won from Germany, did not premiere at Cannes because Cannes does not show Netflix films. You have to go back to 2014 since a film that did not debut at Cannes and is not a Netflix film won the Academy Award in this category, and that was Poland's Ida. Enough of that, let's move on to the juicy top 10 picks that could be their country's submission for Best International Feature Film and could well be the eventual winner. Before I count down the top 10, I want to be absolutely clear. I'm not at Cannes, I've not seen any of the films. This is purely based on the awards given out and the reaction they've had from film critics. Number 1 is Emilia Perez. It won the Jury Prize and is directed by Jacques Audred. This film could be a potential submission for either Mexico or France, as it's got a French director, but it's set in Mexico, it's in Spanish, and is a significant proportion of Mexican creative content. I imagine both countries would ideally want to submit it because it's done really well at Cannes. Jacques Audret's had a previous film nominated, A Prophet, but however his more recent work, including the Palme d'Or winning film Dipane, has not been nominated. So I have a feeling whether his time as the French nominee is done, I don't know. But this is a sort of film that will do well in the Oscar category because it's got people like Selena Gomez, who has wider appeal. It provides that sort of art house film, but with a commercial basis. So it would not surprise me if either Mexico or France submit this film, put it forward, and it makes at least the nomination phase. My number 2 pick is Gran Tour by Miguel Gomez. This could be Portugal's submission. Portugal is the country that has submitted the most films but has never been even shortlisted, let alone win or nominated. I love Miguel Gomez's previous work, such as the Arabian Nights trilogy, Taboo. It's really out there cinema that's very experimental, surreal sometimes, very political. This has had a really good response at Cannes from film critics and has won the Best Director prize. So if this translates into a relatively accessible art house film, I could see potentially Portugal at least getting to the shortlisting phase. And I really want them because they've done some brilliant submissions in the past, but they've never been particularly successful. My number 3 Oscar pick is Nyoñez on Becoming a Guinea Fowl. She's had a film previously submitted for the United Kingdom, I Am Not a Witch, and this is exactly the sort of film the UK will usually submit, something to help elevate a director who is early in their career. It's not necessarily a hugely distributed film, and I assume this probably will not be. However, it's something to show off the art house sensibility that UK cinema has, especially not in an English language. Obviously, the last Oscars, The Zone of Interest won for the United Kingdom, and that's a really rare situation because the UK doesn't tend to produce such masterpieces that are not in the UK English language. My number 4 film, which could be an Oscar pick, is The Shameless for Bulgaria. Sengupta won the Best Actress award in the Un Certain Regard competition, and despite the film being based in India without a direct connection to Bulgaria, which is something that might be a barrier for Bulgaria submitting it. However, I feel it winning awards kind of pushes it towards being the Bulgarian favourite. Bulgaria has previously submitted a film which was based in Siberia and wasn't in Bulgarian or did not have a direct narrative connection to Bulgaria, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Bulgaria will send something like this. My number 5 potential Oscar pick is Nora, which could be submitted by Saudi Arabia. It got a special recognition award in the Un Certain Regard competition, and unless it's hugely critical of the Saudi government, I don't see there any issue with Saudi Arabia wanting to select it, as they often do pick female-centred art house films as their submission. My number 6 Oscar pick is Arnold, which could be Norway's submission. It stars Renate Reinsve, who has previously starred in the Oscar-nominated The Worst Person in the World and has won the Camera d'Or at Cannes Film Festival. So I pretty much see this as a solid, cemented submission for Norway. My number 7 Oscar pick is Simon of the Mountain. It won the Grand Jury Prize in Critics Week and could well be a firm favourite for Argentina's submission. They've had 2 previously nominated films in the last 10 years, Wild Tales and Argentina 1985, and I could pretty much see this potentially being Argentina's submission and doing relatively well based upon the reviews I have seen. My number 8 film is Belgium's Julia Keeps Quiet, a film supposedly about abuse within professional tennis. This film won a couple of awards over the Cannes week, and I could pretty much see this as being Belgium's submission. It could potentially, if it gets some momentum, make the nomination phase and repeat what Lucas Dard's Close did and get a nomination. My number 9 Oscar pick is the Romanian film 3 Kilometers to the End of the World. It won the Queer Palm Award. It didn't do anything in competition, so I'm not sure it's necessarily going to be a huge award-winning film for Romania. However, it's probably leading the pack to be Romania's submission. And my number 10 Oscar pick is Universal Language, which could well be Canada's submission. They haven't had a shortlisted film since Xavier Dolan's It's Only the End of the World some years ago. They've had issues around language in their submissions and whether there's too much English. This film is in French and Persian, so I think it's got a good chance of being their submission, and it could do well. It's had some really positive reviews, and it wants the Audience Awards and Directors Week. So to me, this is probably the firm favourite to be Canada's submission. Those were my top 10 Oscar picks. However, there's a few more I wanted to talk about, which could be their country's submission. However, the lack of awards or their domestic circumstance may prevent them from being submitted. Now, the big omission from my top 10 list is All We Imagine As Light, which should theoretically be the firm favourite to be India's submission. The first film from India to play at Cannes in competition for decades. It's won the Grand Prix prize in competition. This should be a firm favourite for India and could well be one of their best performing films in the category. However, I'm fully aware India is a huge country. There's a huge amount of political decisions in their film selection. There's various cultures and communities, and so it's sometimes that prevents the obvious one being selected for India's submission. I'm not saying it will definitely not be submitted for India. However, I feel something by accident could be submitted instead of it. However, if it is submitted, I see this as one of the 5 nominated films, which would be great for Indian cinema. 2 films which did not get prizes, but I'm pretty certain could be strong contenders in the category and be their country's submission, includes The Girl with a Needle for Denmark and When the Light Breaks for Iceland. Both had great reviews, but one was in competition, one opened as a Guard competition. Those two, I think, are a shoo-in for their country's submission. They just didn't win an award in Cannes. The next country I wanted to look at is China. Now, Black Dog won 2 awards during the Cannes Film Festival, including picking up the main prize in the Un Certain Regard category. And normally this would be a shoo-in to be China's submission. However, China more recently have put very nationalistic, big budget films showing the power of China. And I'm not sure that this is that sort of film. I haven't seen the film. I haven't read the reviews properly. I've just seen the reaction. And it's the suggestion there's something about how the dogs were treated in the run-up to the Beijing Games. And if it's seen as too critical of the Chinese government, it will not be put forward as their submission. However, if it's not critical and is seen as palatable for the government, then this would be a certain for China. Italy is very interesting. Historically, Italy's selection is usually extremely hard because they have a number of quality films, and it looks like already this year it's no different. The Damned shared Best Director in the Un Certain Regard category, and probably the early frontrunner was Pablo Sorrentino's Parthenope, which I don't think has had such a positive response. It feels like it's a very divisive film, and I could see Italy staying away from this now and maybe moving towards The Damned, unless there's something else out there that could take its place. So that's my look at what films have played at Cannes, what films have won awards, and which could be in contention to be their country's submission for Best International Feature Film. There's a long way to go. Countries are only starting to think about this, and we've probably got a couple of months before the first submission is made. However, Cannes is a good sort of flag to point to which films could be in contention for the award. If you want to follow the Best International Feature Film race and see the best of world cinema reviewed, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel and catch more reviews and analysis going forward.